Today is a special day. I finally start the biggest project so far in this world. While it has been suggested in the comments and I have noted it down in this book, I have secretly been planning this since last year already. And without further ado, grab some snacks, stay hydrated and enjoy these next 1750 days. Well, what is this mystery project I have been teasing since the world tour? Well, it is the greatest industrial district of all time. Today, we finally start with this project that has been suggested by a viewer as well. In this industrial district, I will build all the farms I ever wanted and make a massive storage for it. And for that, we need to make some space. So in today's episode, we're gonna make a massive perimeter. This will only be the setup for this entire project. Building all the farms and other decorations inside will be split into multiple videos, as it is simply not possible to fit all of it in one video unless it was a 10-hour video. Anyways, first, we need to choose the best possible location. As I want to have all sorts of farms, each with different requirements for biomes or structures, this is the most important step. I made a list of all these requirements and searched through my word using chunk base. After some scouting, I came across this spot here. Within a 63 by 63 area of chunks or 1008 by 1008 blocks and minimal compromises, it holds all the features I need for this project. The most important things I had to look out for were certain biomes, an ocean monument, it not being too far from my main base, and a stronghold. Well then, let's fly over there and make a portal. This will be the location of the industrial district. Let's mark the corners with some blocks so you can get an idea of the scale of this perimeter. Yeah, this project is gonna take forever, but that's not going to stop me. As it has been one of my dreams for such a long time to have such an incredible industrial district, I will give it my all to make it the best one possible. Let's move on to planning. First, let's go over how I can achieve this and what steps I need to take to make this project come to life. Mining out this area of over 1 million blocks all the way down to bedrock is not feasible for one player. So I will be using a world eater to remove all the blocks within those dirt pillars. A world eater is essentially a massive flying machine that uses TNT dupers to remove all the blocks and sweepers to clear out any water and lava. The only things that can stop the machine are obsidian and natural cobblestone generators, but these are much rarer than the obsidian. In order to be able to run a world eater, I need to do some preparation, and this is by far the hardest step of making a perimeter, or at least the most tedious one. As the world eater cannot remove blocks underneath itself, we'll have to make trenches on all four sides. These are going to be in various sizes, but the process is all the same for them. Alright then, after marking the trenches out with sand, I will need to drain all the surface water inside the trenches. Once that is cleared out, I can use TNT dupers to dig the trenches all the way down to bedrock. While these trenches are running, I'll have to clear out water and lava that will be revealed further down manually, and that marks the preparation complete. This might seem like a simple step, but it is the most tedious one of all for sure. However, once we have that behind us, we can run the world eater. This will dig out everything inside the trenches all the way to bedrock. I simply have to remove obsidian manually in order for the world eater to be able to keep running, and that's a perimeter done. But that would be too easy to leave it there. I want to decorate both the floor and the walls, so I have some cool designs in mind for this. Anyways, I think it's time to get started with the perimeter. As mentioned, the first step is the trenches. Let's mark them out with sand. And to make this a bit easier, I'll be using this little setup to at least semi-automate this process. So let's go. And finally, this is the trenches marked out. Here you can better see the sheer scale of this project. The next step is to drain the surface water in all of the trenches. For that, I need a few more sponges.
3 hours later.
Now that I have plenty of them to take on this task, let's get started. Hold on, buddy. Most of this process can be automated to a certain degree. For that, I need to flatten the seabed and then I can use some flying machines. This makes it a lot less tedious and probably faster as well. For the remaining pockets of water, I'll simply use the sponges there. After some AFKing at the slime farm to get resources for some flying machines, I also made some water breathing potions to make this a little less painful. Well then, let's go. This is what it looks like right now. By the way, while draining all of the trenches, I have now reached day 2000 in this world. Please excuse the frame drops as I'm rendering something in the background. Anyways, let's add our second nether star to our survival board, celebrating yet another milestone. Before I can use the trenchers though, there is something I'd like to do first. Basically, if I were to run the dupers now, they would destroy the sand wall pretty quickly and then everything gets flooded from the surrounding water, meaning the TNT won't break blocks anymore. So let's protect the walls by mining some blocks down next to them and then removing the top layer of the sand wall to let the water flow down in a controlled manner, which should protect the walls a little bit without everything getting flooded. Now we are ready to build the trenchers and run them to dig all the way down to bedrock. And without further ado, let's go. To get all the way down, I had to rebuild the trenchers multiple times on different layers, but now we are done with this step of the process. And this is what it looks like. But yeah, they are now fully done and we are ready for the next part of the plan, the World Eater. Here's all the materials I need for the World Eater, so let's get started with that. And here are all the resources already at the perimeter. Now I can simply build this monster of a machine. Let's not waste any time and get going. Wow, this looks insane. Now, I have used world eaters before, but never one of this size. Before I can start this thing, there's a few more things left to do. First, I need to place all the minecarts to prime the TNT dupers. Thankfully, I added moss in there to make this process a lot easier. Placing this concrete powder on top pushes the rail and the minecart in its place and removes the moss block, finishing the world eater. Let's repeat that 167 times more. Next up, I need an AFK spot. Let's remove this portal, build an AFK spot high up in the air above the world eater, and add a new portal up here. This is also where I'll be placing my second account in Spectator to chunk load the world eater and also record the time lapses, as it will be stationary, making the time lapse look much better. And the last thing is placing these furnaces. These wouldn't be required normally, but since I changed parts of the world eater, I needed these to fix it again. Just trust me on this one. Now we're fully done with all the preparation, so let's start removing the world. While running this monster, I had to remove obsidian on the go to keep the machine from breaking. Even if that were to happen, the world eater stops if not all the sweepers return, until I removed the obsidian in question and sent the sweeper on its way again. This makes it impossible to break the world eater. Anyways, this is what the perimeter looks like right now. Let's take down the world eater and get the resources back. While I was doing that, I almost lost the world. So yeah, here's the clip. Luckily, I was carrying those ender pearls in my ender chest for that exact reason. Anyways, next up I want to fill up these holes in the floor to make it a smooth floor, preventing any mobs from spawning under the floor I'm gonna build in a second. Let's go! Yeah, that was a casual 7 hours, but it was more than worth it. I started with cobbled deep slate, but since this bit here alone was an entire shulker box, I then switched to sand, as it is much easier to get with a sand duper. Now that the floor is completely smooth, preventing any spawnable blocks later on, I can move on to building the actual floor. Placing those 1 million blocks by hand would take an insane amount of time, so as always I tried to find an automated way for achieving this. Building a blank floor consisting of just one block is boring, so how can I get a cool pattern on the floor that can be placed automatically? Well, this is a floor printer. It can store a pattern and spit out the correct blocks in the correct order to get repeating floor tiles. And after hours and even days of trying to figure out how this machine works, it didn't work. It is a really complicated machine and I ran into problem after problem. Once I delved deeper into the intricate parts of this contraption, I managed to fix all my mistakes and get a better understanding of this machine. It finally worked. All that was left to do was to build this in the hardcore world. And here it is. Before we can start this machine, we obviously need to stock it with all the blocks needed for the floor. Since I want to use concrete for the floor design, I will also need to make a second layer out of glass to spawn-proof the entire perimeter. Since this concrete duper is incredibly fast, the process of acquiring all the concrete for the first layer did not take up too much time. Here are all the resources for layer number 1. So let's move the resources from this temporary storage into the floor printer.
346 minutes later.
Now everything is ready to start printing the floor. When I tell you this process took an enormous amount of time, I mean it. For the first layer alone, the floor printer ran for roughly 85 hours. That's 3.5 days straight. But that was only the easy part. So let's move on to the second layer. After some hours at the sand duper, I had all 1 million sand for the glass on the second layer. Smelting this much sand with a 64 furnace smelter still takes over 40 hours. This is also not fully AFKable since I need to take out the glass out of the output chest and put more sand into the input chest. In addition, I need to keep up with the fuel as well. Regular glass didn't quite fit the look of the perimeter, so I opted for black stained glass. Getting this much black dye is another challenge on its own, but let's take it step by step. I'll start with moving the sand to the smelter. Then tackling the black dye next. There are two ways of acquiring this. One is the ink from squids. I don't have a squid farm and usually they are not that fast. The other way is wither roses. My current wither rose farm is a beginner farm which is still very manual and not too fast either. So it's time to build a new wither rose farm. Building it on the outer end islands, we can make use of endermen to get our wither roses. First, let's remove the portal within the bedrock formation and then make some space. Now we have separated this end gateway to trap a wither from the land around it, and now I can build the farm. All that's left to do is to trap a wither and we're done. This design is an extremely cool one that is much faster than my previous one and also fully automatic. Now it's time to AFK for some hours.
8 hours later.
Well. We have all the wither roses needed for all the black dye. Now I have all the sand and all the dye ready. Next, I need the fuel, namely coal. Let's see how much coal I can get with an overnight AFK session at the wither skeleton farm.
The next day.
We got 14 shulker boxes, but in total we need over 70 of them. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. So let's simply keep AFKing overnight until we have all the coal needed.
3 days later.
After a couple of days, I can stop killing wither skeletons. Here is all the coal needed for this massive project. Let's move it to the smelter and spend the next 45 hours smelting sand into glass, crafting wither roses into black dye, and combining the two to craft black stained glass. This half-automated process is going to be quite exhausting as I constantly need to pay attention to the smelter and all that. Watching YouTube and movies on the side is about all I can do while I'm smelting. But let's get started. Here is one double chest of black glass, here's two, another one, double chest number 4, 5, halfway done, lucky number 7, here's to 8, almost there, double digits, and we're done. Yeah, that was 45 hours in 20 seconds. Anyways, I did actually run out of wither roses, but with this farm getting more wasn't a problem at all. After rebuilding the conveyor belt and the extension arm, we can move all the glass to the floor printer and start with the second layer. Same as with the first layer, this will take another 85 hours, so I'll see you in 3.5 days. And finally, the floor is done. All the concrete is covered in glass, making it spawn proof. While printing the final blocks off the floor, I crossed 3,000 days. Yeah, I know, we passed 2,000 days in this same video, but hey, I told you this was a mega episode. Let's get another nether star and hang it up in the achievement hall. All that's left is the walls and we're done. Since they're mainly made out of grey concrete, let's start with that. Now I have all the grey concrete powder, as I will be using a conveyor belt to place it and then later pour water over it to turn it into solid concrete. Next up is some white concrete, then here's black concrete, and finally some cyan concrete. All that's left is some sea lanterns, which I can get from the Guardian farm, here we go, and some cyan glass as well. That should be all. Now let's use a conveyor belt to do most of the work. Here we go. This pushes over the grey concrete powder to form an entire wall automatically, and after some hours this is what it looks like. Anyways, let's grind out the rest of the walls in a time lapse. As you can see, all the walls are now done. One wall, so an eighth of them, took about 11 hours. So that was another 4 days of just AFKing. Anyways, there are still spots where there are blocks missing, but that's where I need to build up the rest of the walls manually. But first, let's pour water over the concrete powder to solidify it. So let's go. Here we go. Now for the manual parts of the walls. These are the remaining resources and all that's left is to just build them. And without further ado, let's get this project to an end. After 6 hours of building the final piece of this project, I am finally done. So here's the perimeter fully finished. This means I can now map out the entire perimeter, hang it up in my base, and update the achievement hall. Before I showcase the perimeter in a little montage, I want to talk about some future plans of this world, specifically the perimeter. Inside here, I will build the greatest industrial district containing all the farms I need in this world. They are split up into 11 different districts. Each of those will have a different building style, ranging from Japanese over medieval to cyberpunk style. Since my building style is more or less always the same, this will be a nice challenge to branch out to other building styles and become a better builder as well. In addition, I want to keep decorating the walls. Right now, they look very blank with those massive grey walls. This is where you guys come in. If you want your name spelled out on the wall, simply write a comment down below and I'll add the names in the following episode. There's a lot of space on this canvas, so feel free to get your name on here. Finally, next episode I hope to update to 1.21 to explore all of that, but that depends on whether the mods and data packs I'm using have been updated as well. If not, then I'll keep playing in this version of the game until they have been updated. Specifically, I am waiting on mods like Lightmatica or Tweakaroo. Next up, I have a few announcements to make. I think I mentioned some of it before, but I am planning on making 3 things in addition to this channel. Firstly, I want to make an interactive map of this hardcore world you guys can explore. There will be lore attached to all of the different locations and builds in this world, plus some secrets you can find. There will also be a timeline and articles about some builds for you to read. I have already started with that, but it will take some more time until it is finished. After that, I will update it after every episode. Secondly, I will eventually make a Discord server for this community. There you will be able to chat with me, find sneak peeks of the next episode, probably some schematics of the builds, and so on. If this is something you're interested in, let me know down below in the comments. This will most likely be released once I hit 1,000 subscribers, so subscribe right now. And thirdly, I am setting up a Patreon where you will be able to find extra perks in addition to this channel. I will add the world download there after every episode, custom Discord roles for the Discord server, early releases of videos, and more. But again, this is not yet set up. Yeah, there's a lot coming in the near future. Now let's get to updating these books in my base. Here is the new entry for this episode. And the comment of the video, thank you so much for your comment. It was so much fun chasing after these advancements. It was a refreshing experience from all the designing a building creative and grinding for resources in hardcore as well as building it. Anyways, here's the first stepping stone to creating the greatest industrial district in all of time. Let me present to you the perimeter. Well, I have spent 1750 days on this video alone, which is more than what I had before this video in the entire series. Sure, a lot of it was just AFKing, but it still took forever to make this video. Here are some of the stats that went up drastically during this video. If you enjoyed the episode, as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more. And again, if you want your name on the perimeter wall, make sure to write a comment down below and I will add your name in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed and I will see you in the next episode.